Hello, this is Tytti, an associate trainer for Art2Ride, and this is a lesson with Aroha and her horse Tiva. I have to say right from the start that she has done an excellent job already with Tiva. When I started to go around with her in hand here, as you can see, she stretched immediately and goes down fairly low and is pretty consistent in it as well. And she walked really very nicely beside me, gave me lots of space, so she was not leaning on me at all with the shoulder or trying to go past me or anything at all. It's I'm just very happily smiling here and commenting to Aroha and everybody else that okay, my work is done here. It's she's very nice, and it's been really well done from Aroha to just start this on her own like that. So very easy horse, I thought, and I didn't really have to do anything to correct her in the work with the stretching and so on. But what she did have difficulties with Tiva was the yielding and the lateral work, and that's what I then started to work on with her here. So there we go. So she's doing really well, as you can see here. I'm just asking her to yield just that little bit, just to give me more space and just go a little bit sideways, and then I just release the rein. So I just give quite a lot. And here you can see me, I'm taking a little bit more of a contact, so inside hand a little bit upwards, and just asking with the whip, just tapping her. And here I decided to try a small circle, see how that goes, if that would be easy as well. And she's actually very easy horse to do a small circle with, so she really follows you very nicely and really obliges really nicely. So I think it's just a matter of that she hasn't understood what you want with the asking with the whip to go sideways, and she gets very anxious if you ask too much. So you just need to ask a little bit, just a step or two, and when she calmly gives you a bit of yield, then you just give the reins. So here you see me, I'm just following with my hand upwards, so I'm not pulling on her mouth or anything. I'm just following her head upwards as it goes up with me asking for the yield. And the head goes upwards because she finds it difficult and so on. So I'm just following, and once she's done what I asked, I'm just asking her to just go straight, and I give the contact, so I kind of gave even slack to her. So what I also found out as I was working with her is that she is also very sensitive in the mouth. So any too much contact and she will get blocked. So what you need to think very hard here is to let go of the reins and not block her. So you can block her by just having a weight of rein contact for too long, and then she will not stretch forward and down as easily or as much. So yeah, so here you can see me, I'm just doing some leg yield every now and then I just let her go kind of straight, and I just release the contact altogether. As you can see, I'm giving her slack, even because yeah, she definitely needs the slack to be able to relax into it. And here you can see I'm just asking her to just move on. So I'm now seeing, because she reacts so easily and so nicely, I'm just asking her to pick up the pace. so to be a little bit more active in it. So here I'm asking Aroha to come and walk with me so I can tell her all this, what I found out, so that you just need to ask a step or two of leg yield. She is very easy to do small circles with, so that small circles help just the same as the leg yield, or they may even be easier with him. So I'm just showing her here, like, okay, when you want to ask for the yield, you pick up the contact by following her head upwards, if it goes upwards. Eventually she will stretch into the yield, and then you don't have to do anything with your inside hand, so to say. You just make sure that you have a ever so slight contact, and you start, like here you can see me facing her, so I face her and I just tap with the whip a little bit to the place where you would use your leg if you were riding. So that's the aid for going sideways. The aid for going more forward and be more so to say, be more active, is to tap with the whip towards the quarters, so to say. And this pace, this activity level is really good. So this is a nice activity. So you have to remember that you have to keep the activity, and then you want to stretch with that, so that it comes from the hind legs across over the whole top line. So that is what builds the muscle, and that's what activates it. So this is pretty good. Very nice activity. Yep, and here I'm just chatting and telling and chatting with Aroha here. And so, but as you can see, there is just, you need to remember to open your hands and give the reins to her, and it is so easy to block her. I will show a little bit later on quite clearly how you can block her very easily by just keeping the contact too long. So here comes Aroha's friend and helper Caroline here, and I'm just telling her, I'm just going over the same things, like here is how you do a leg yield. You just pick up the contact and follow the head, follow the head with your inside hand, and ask her to step sideways by using the whip on where your leg would go if you were riding. And then give. Once she has yielded even just one step or two steps, you give the rein and you start going the same direction as she. So you kind of face her when you want her to yield, and then you turn yourself to go the direction you're going when she has done that, to kind of release the pressure. So it's the whip pressure, but it's also your body language that gives the aid, so the pressure. And here you can see that she's not going so high with her head, so I don't need to use my inside hand very much at all there. And she actually becomes very sensitive to the inside hand as we go on. So in the end, you need to only use it by just a fraction of a second to just get the contact, just a fraction of a second. And once she's reacting by going a little bit lower with the head, just release. So it is she's very sensitive to that, and that's very good. And I'm showing here that she's very easy to do small circles with, and it's just you just have to direct her to the circle. And what she doesn't find this circle work stressful at all. So whereas if you try to do too much of a leg yield from a straight line with her, she gets tense and stressed about it. But the circle work does not get her stressed one bit. So that's good to know, and think that you can use the small circle to kind of ask her to yield with the inside hind leg. So it doesn't need much to block her from stretching, and here I'm giving an example how easy it is to block her by just keeping the contact with the inside hand too long. And you can see how she did not, she kind of was wanting to stretch, but I blocked her with my inside hand, and I didn't need to pull or anything. I just kept the weight of rein contact, and she felt restricted immediately. So it is so easy with her. So you need to be really extra mindful that you give the rein. And if you notice that she's being blocked, just release the rein and let her stretch. Because she's not the one to snatch the reins either. So you can just open your hands and let her go. And you can see here that she's starting to kind of keep the medium stretch better in the leg yields as I'm doing. And here you can really see how slack I let the rein go with her. So then I'm gonna, since this leg yielding and small circles go well, I'm starting to do some shoulder 4 exercises for them. So what I'm showing here is like you place the horse a little in front of you, as if you were going to make a turn into a circle. But instead of going into a circle, you start going in a straighter line, so that the inside hind leg should step in the same line as the outside front leg. So the horse kind of slightly bends with the whole of her body. Eventually, the shoulder 4 means that it's just mainly the shoulders that are slightly displaced in a curve, but eventually the horse should bend with the whole body, and that's called the shoulder in then. But here we're just starting with it, and I'm just looking for that she steps with her inside hind leg more under and in a 3 track, so to say. So it is different from a leg yield, and as you can see there, she's now stretching even better because of that shoulder 4 exercise I've done there a couple of times. So she's now really reaching forward from her, all the way from her withers, and really lengthening her neck altogether there for a while. So the shoulder 4 is more kind of more towards a collective work, so to say. It will it's more difficult than the leg yield, whereas in leg yield you go across sideways. With shoulder 4 you kind of want the horse to step even more under, and in a more this is more kind of towards it's just more difficult, and it was towards more collective work, so to say, to how would you say this? I'm lost for words here. More preparing for that, so to say. So it is far more difficult for the horse, and it will activate the top line perhaps even better. So here Aroha took the reins and is having a go with all of this. And as I said, she's been doing a really great job with Tiva here, because she's a very nice, very calm, very gentle horse, very well behaved. As I found that all the horses that I met in New Zealand, I thought they were very well behaved and very nice horses altogether. And I think the grazing there is amazing. So I think that makes a huge difference, that the horses can graze and be outside all year round. And that's, I think, very good for them. Kind of mentally and physically also very good for them. So here we go, and I'm just talking through to her about the contact, I think. And she's, since she's so sensitive to a contact, Aroha doesn't need to do very much with her inside hand at all. So she can just give a tiny bit of contact and then release it. When she notices at all that she's willing to stretch, like there, that was really nice stretch there, that she can just let go of the inside hand. And not to forget the outside hand, obviously, but with Tiva here, the outside rein is not as important as with other horses, because she's pretty straight, and she doesn't come into you, and she's using herself pretty nicely. So hence I'm not talking very much about the outside rein, but of course the outside rein is also important, because when you do lateral work, you always want to work from the, so to say, the inside leg to the outside hand, even from the ground, so to say. But at this moment, what is important is for her to release, and of course release with both hands, but especially release with the inside hand, because that is what you are actually using at the moment more. And here I'm asking her to try out to do a small circle, and that's going very well. That's going very well. I can see that Aroha has still is sticking a little bit too much with her inside hand, and I think I'm just trying to remind her every time, like, just release the inside hand. But you can see it from the video here. This is pretty good, but you can see how the inside rein is a little bit too tighter than the outside. So you want to kind of match them both. You give as much with the inside hand as the outside, and it is, I know it is so easy to stick too much to the inside rein. You just have to keep on reminding yourself all the time that, okay, inside rein, just release it. Don't get stuck on it, with Tiva especially, because she reacts so quickly to it if it blocks her at all. But you can see how consistent she is in the stretch, and how well she's walking. She's pretty okay with activity wise as well. I think you can ask her to be more active though than this, because she is so good and she's so consistent with the stretch all the time here. So you can now make it a little bit more difficult for her by asking a bit more activity, and here and also a little bit more of the lateral. And there she gets a little bit, asking a little bit of leg yield. That's fine. And you could see there that she was restricting her a little bit too much with the inside hand. If you saw her, she was Tiva was a little bit nodding there backwards, and that's just her way of telling Aroha that, oh, I'm feeling restricted. So she needs to still remember to release it, even with the leg yield or the laterals. Is that if she's stretching that low, even in the lateral movement, then you don't have to touch the rein at all. So yeah, it's just keep reminding yourself to release the inside rein. and only pick up the contact and very, very slight contact or momentarily contact if her head comes upwards. So if it comes beyond over the knees, then lift your hand to pick up the contact for just like couple seconds and then release again. Because I know that she's so sensitive that you don't need to have the contact for very much longer than just couple seconds. And just release it to slack. Think about slack rather than any kind of other contact with her. So some other horses you may have a different way of, different level of contact. But with her, it is very important to give that slack with the inside rein. So I hope I've been clear enough with this. I'm sure I will say the same later on in in this video, but it is just so important with her at the moment. But yeah, but this pace here, this pace is pretty good for her. Yeah. But as I said, you can kind of up the tempo a little bit at times and try how she reacts. If she can cope a little bit with a little bit more of activity and still keep the stretch, then that's very good. You know, you can try these things because I think she's ready for these slightly harder work now, because she's reacting so well, and she's really nice to work with in hand. So I think I'm pointing out here as well to keep an eye on the muscle along the big longissimus muscle. You can literally see it starting to activate and work as you do this. As you do these exercises. And I have to say that usually what I've seen is that the more lateral work you do, the longer you do that, the more difficult lateral work you do, the more you activate that big muscle along the top line, or along the back. And the better it will get, it gets, so to say. But with her, you have to start with just a couple of steps of yield, because she gets stressed otherwise. But you can start, once she's relaxing like this, you can start asking for a little bit more, just very gradually. And if she gets stressed, just return to easier work, or do a couple of smaller circles and ask her to yield the hindquarters within that circle. So here we switched reins and switched handlers. So this is Aroha's helper, Caroline, and she's also doing a very good job. Very sensitive hands, and she has the right attitude and right position there, and pretty good coordination. And you can see how she keeps her outside hand a little bit higher there, and this would be the position where you can control the outside rein a lot better. So if you need to control the outside rein, if the horse is coming a little bit more into you, or if the horse bends her neck too much to the inside, if it's jackknifing, so to say, then you would kind of get more contact with the outside rein, and you would lift your hand higher like she is doing just now. So slightly higher, and you can go a little bit even across to the outside at the withers, and just take a little bit of contact to straighten the horse, so to say. So that's how you would control the outside rein, and I think she may need a little bit of it on this rein. The other side, she didn't really need any corrections with the outside rein, but this side she may need a little bit more of that. So just keep that in mind. If you feel that she's coming into you, or if you feel that she's starting to jackknife with her neck only, then you should do as Caroline does here. You just lift your hand a little bit over the withers and just take a touch of contact there. But always remember to return back to the normal position with the outside hand, and not keep on restricting her with the outside rein, because then she will not work properly through her body if she feels that restriction. But here it's going really well. She's not being restricted at all at the moment, so that's very good. And she's stretching very, very nicely. I think Caroline might be going a little bit too fast. Sometimes, that is, sometimes she's going a little bit too much forward from the shoulder than she should, and then that also very easily blocks the horse. If you go too much in front of the horse's shoulder, that usually kind of slows down or stops even the horse. So here you saw her do a little bit of leg yield there. So she was facing Tiva a little bit more, and just asking for a few steps, just a step or two of yield there. And there was a little bit there. There was a little bit more. And I'm just giving her a little bit of a help there with my hand. And then you just walk on with her and just give the reins, give the inside as well. And that's very good work. Overall, she's doing so well, because she's stretching well enough for her to build the muscles, and I'm sure we could see the muscles starting to work along the back as well. This is very good. Very good work. So she is also a horse that should really stretch well below the knees for her to start activating well enough. So here you can see, as I said, with the leg yield, she needs to kind of face Tiva and ask for the yield. And once she reacts, then just turn yourself to go in the direction you're going, and release the reins. Just think of slack, and it'll be good. Oh, and DJ goes here to show us the views, which are awesome. Really nice views here. Lots of paddocks, lots of animals, and here we are. We've gone full circle and come back to us. That was a nice interlude from DJ. It was really gorgeous out there in New Zealand, I have to say. I hope I can come back one day. It was a really nice holidays, and lovely scenery, and very nice horses. Very nice horses indeed. So Aroha was our final lesson stop during our little holiday down there. And I had lots of good times, lots of fun. It was very nice. But here you can see how Caroline is taking, and she's using her elbow there a little bit. As I said, that's okay to use. If you want to give if you feel that your whip aid is not efficient enough, or you're not as coordinated with your hand as you would like to be, then it's okay to, in the beginning, to use your hand or your elbow to make the aid clear for the horse. So instead of you becoming more irritated or upset or something, or start pushing the horse, you can just use your elbow or your hand. But you use it the same way as if you were using your leg aid, so not leaning on the horse or not all the time pressing. No, it's just like a tap, and that should work. I think I'm pointing out here how I can see the muscle working there. I don't quite remember how far it went. I'm thinking at least just behind the saddle area, if not further. I'm afraid I can't remember exactly how far the muscle started moving, but I'm sure I was pointing it out there. So here you see how little, I hope you saw it there, how little inside hand you need to use with her. This just she just took a little bit of contact with the inside rein upwards, and Tiva just instantly reacted. So that's how little you need to use. And here we tried a little bit of shoulder 4. As you saw, it went actually really well. And here you can see her actually blocking Tiva with the inside hand. You can see how easily it happens, because she's not pulling. And here's a shoulder 4, and now she's giving. Now she's giving, and there she goes, a little bit better stretch. So, sorry, I'm having a bit of a cold still. Okay, but the shoulder 4 is going pretty okay with her, so you can you just keep on practicing it. So that's pretty good work for her, because she doesn't seem to be very stressed about the shoulder 4 either. You just have to keep an eye on that inside hand and inside rein, that you won't block her by using it too much, or having the contact for too long, so to say. And here was an example of a smaller circle, which she did really well. But again, the inside hand, just you just need to be more, you just need to be faster, so to say, with her. It's not much, but it is just that little bit. It's just the timing, And here's a very nice pace indeed. That's very good activity. And you can just see how it is, well, I think the way to learn it is to just keep an eye on your inside hand all the time, and just see what the fraction of a second makes on her, how she reacts to it, and then you just have to learn how to release in the right moment, so to say. It's just a matter of feel, and you just keep on exercising and so on. And here you can see me explaining what happens in the shoulder 4 and how it is different from leg yield. How you go in a 3 tracks like that. But here you can see how she's just blocking her, just that tad too much. The inside rein does not have to be pulled at all with her, but it just blocks her just a tad there from relaxing to it. And Tiva just reacts by pulling her neck a little bit inwards, and just coming a little bit more on a curl, and losing the stretch, so to say. But as I said, this has to be learned through feel, and just learned by doing the in-hand work more, and just keeping a constant eye on what happens with Tiva if I do what I do with my inside hand, so to say. So yeah, so the shoulder 4 is just it's fairly different, as I was saying already, that you should aim at the horse going on 3 tracks, so to say. If you look from behind, you see the horse going on 3 tracks. Like here, if you just go straight on, you see how the horse makes 2 tracks. Like here, it's pretty clear that the hind legs follow the tracks of the front legs. But with the shoulder 4, you want the inside front leg going on its own track, the inside hind leg and the outside front leg follow the same track, and then the outside hind leg follows its own track. So there's 3 tracks, and that's what you want to aim for. And also you have to keep an eye on the fact that the horse does not overbend with the neck, so that the horse does not start jackkniving. By the way, there was really nice work there with a very, very low stretch, and you could see how she's now not blocking at all the stretch with the reins. But yeah, so anyway, you want to avoid the horse overbending the neck inwards when you do the shoulder 4. So you have to keep more, if the horse tends to overbend, so to say jackknife, then you need to think more of your outside hand. So you have to keep a better control of the outside rein then, and take that into play. But she's not overbending too much at all, and she's doing really well. So hence we don't have to think too hard of the outside rein as yet. So that's just what I'm saying. Not forgetting the outside rein at all, but with her case it is not as important, at least not yet. And the inside rein with her is more of a, you have to keep more of an eye on it at the moment, so to say. So here you can see just a little bit of contact there, just a little bit, and she lowers her head. So when she was just looking up too much there and not working through, she just took a little bit of contact upwards, and Tiva immediately lowered her head. And then you need to release and just walk on. So that's the only thing you need. So I'm just still explaining here that she needs to keep an even eye on her, keep a better eye on her inside hand, so that gives extra, because she's such a sensitive horse. She has really good hands, but she needs to be even more sensitive with her, just because she's Tiva is so sensitive with her mouth. So here we are starting with some lunging after this, and just taking away the reins and so on. But I'm still showing here her that she needs to give immediately when she notices that she's being blocked, and just let go of the inside hand. So here we are taking off the reins, and Aroha is putting the lunge line over the pole, as they usually do with lunging. And I'm just going through here how she is used to lunge, if she's stretching easily, and whether she's any fractures or bolts or anything. But she's not. But and I'm just pondering here that since she's so sensitive to the contact with her mouth, and it's not fractures or misbehaving on the lunge line, that we better put the lunge line touching straight on the inside bit ring. This is because the line over the pole is always a bit slower to release, as being a little bit stronger in contact. And I'm also telling about Nina and her horse Buddy, who was also a horse that is very sensitive to the contact, and that he worked the best with the line coming straight from the inside bit ring. And I'm thinking that is the same case with Tiva here. So I'm suggesting that, but then again, I thought that I suggest a trial to see whether there's a difference there. So I'm just saying, like, let's do it like they usually do it, like lunging per normal, so to say, and let's see how it goes. So I'm also explaining that if the horse does not open her mouth or be unruly or bolting or anything like that, then it's totally okay to attach the lunge line straight on the inside bit ring. But if you have a horse that is liable to bolting or anything like that, then I would suggest that you keep the line over the pole. But Tiva here is a really relaxed and nice horse. As you can see, he's just relaxing there. Well, Aroha is saying also that Tiva doesn't like the lunge whip, so she doesn't usually use it at all. And what I'm saying that is she can carry it along and just point it backwards in the beginning, and we'll see how it goes. Because the lunge whip is quite important in the end to have. So just a word about the safety issue here. You can see us being inside the lunging circle here with whoever is lunging, and that is something we do not encourage people to do. Actually, it is easy to have an accident if the horse suddenly bolts and there are several people within the circle. So please don't do as we do here. This was just for the lesson purpose, that we were more people inside with the lunger, because well, I wanted to be able to talk to Aroha or Caroline when they were lunging, and explaining, giving tips and explaining what would be maybe the best thing to do. So this is why we were doing it this way. But if you have any doubts that your horse might bolt or be unruly or anything, so please do not have anyone else inside the lunging circle, so to say. But we are pretty certain that Tiva is really well behaved, and there was no danger with this day, so we kept on going a little bit in and out of the lunging circle here. But here you can see how I wonder if you could have seen already there how the contact makes Tiva knot a little bit backwards there every time there's a bit too much contact, and she's really wanting to go into trot, and she's going a little bit, so to say, behind the bit there. Every time there is a little bit more contact on the line, she nods with her head, and she doesn't quite settle into a good stretch. She's stretching there, but she's tending to go a little bit up and down, and she's not really settling in, and her nose tends to go backwards every time she feels pressure in her mouth. And there, as you can see, she's just nodding a little bit backwards, and the trot work is not very good. It's a bit tense, and she's coming hollow here, and you can see the use of the under neck, so the lower neck there is just, and she kind of wants to stretch, and she kind of knots in through there, as you can see, just knots and pushes her nose out. So she's kind of ready to stretch, but she does not feel comfortable because the contact, there's too much contact in her mouth, so she does not get the release, and she can't kind of relax into it because there's too much contact from the lunge line, just because it goes over the pole, and she's so sensitive with her mouth. So and the same thing here as I've said in my previous voiceovers, that she's the bit is fine. The bit is fine because there is no gaping of the mouth. There's no she's not overactive with her mouth at all. So that's fine. The bit is fine. She's comfortable with it, but it is just that she's very sensitive to the contact. So that's the only thing that's going on here. So we stopped here, and now just taking the different position for the lunge line. There we just straight on the inside bit ring. And as you could see, Aroha lost her. She just ditched the whip because it was just, she just felt that Tiva was not relaxing at all and was just being tense. But see here the difference. So the only thing we did here was to change the attachment of the lunge line, and look how relaxed she is almost immediately. So this is just how much the contact means to her for this horse. So you can see that she's not going backwards anymore at all with her nose. When she's stretching, she's just going forward or keeping it forward there. So the trot here is not very optimal at the beginning, but it's the same thing as with walk. She's already a lot more relaxed with it. She's not as tense at all. Even though she's hollow there, and there she goes with a little bit more of a stretch. But as she did not find the restriction from the contact there, she's a lot more relaxed, and she's going down a little bit more kind of consistently, so to say. Even though it's not yet a proper stretch, she's more relaxed through her whole body. So it's not that sharp up and down what she did before, but she's more gentle, and she's keeping a more relaxed form already. And that is just by the changing how the lunge line goes on the bridle. So look at this, that's great. That is great. See how she's not going behind the bit, so to say, at all. Her nose is staying forward. So all that dipping backwards is basically gone. And that's just the contact. She just found that contact over the pole too much. It didn't release for her sensitivity level enough, so to say. So here we just change the lunger, and we're just gonna see a little bit more work here on the other rein. So this to me is a little bit more like leading the horse. So you don't have to stay actually this close to her, and you can just stay a little bit more in the middle of the horse. I think I started to comment on that at some point soon. I hope that she should stay more like in the tip of the the triangle that you form with the horse when you're lunging. So she's staying a little bit too much on the shoulder here, and she should stay maybe an arm's length further away from her. And indeed, I think the whip should be included in this equation now. But it's nonetheless good work in that she's stretching pretty okay, and you can see here how she's using her lunge hand by just lifting the lunge line a little bit upwards, so that the bit moves a little bit more towards her corner of her mouth there, and that you need only that little with Tiva here, so that she stretches downwards. And instead of trotting like this, although it gives pretty good reaction there. So indeed, in a way, the closer you stay on the horse with lunging, the more control you have on them. But I think she can stay about this length away from Tiva and still be okay. So you don't need to be that terribly close. We usually tell people to get closer, but this was maybe a little bit unnecessarily close, so to say. And of course you have to stay away from the kick zone, but Tiva is very kind and is not a horse to kick at all, so you can stay pretty close to her anyway. So this is pretty good. She's kind of experimenting with the stretch there every now and then, so a bit nodding. And indeed, as you can see, it's we always allow the horse to relieve himself, so you never ask the horse to really move on. If she wants to poo, then just let her poo, and that's fine. So this was perfect example of how to do it. You just let her stop and let her poop, and that's fine. And then you start working afterwards again. That's pretty good. So that's very good. So I'm gonna show a little bit later on how I would deal with this issue, or how I would ask her to stretch more on in the lunge line and in the trot, so as well. And yeah. So you can see that Caroline, she's carrying a kind of a dressage whip with her, and she can most certainly point with that, as I show later on with the lunge whip itself, that you can use it by pointing with it. If the horse is really reactive or very sensitive to a whip, you don't have to use the lunge whip and touch the horse with it. If the horse is very sensitive, you can also use it by pointing with it. And as you can see, lifting the lunge line to try and lift the bit in Tiva's mouth, it does work with her, but you can also just get contact like that, but too much contact and she reacts immediately by nodding her nose backwards. So it's a very good example of what happens if you have too much contact. But with her it is so minimal. Like if you have just tiny bit too much, she will nod, so to say, and she will go. You have to get that contact and release it, and then she will work on pretty nice. So this trot work here is like it's good, and then it's hollow, and then it's good and it's hollow. So it kind of goes back and forth a little bit, which is fine. You have to start from somewhere, and you have to try what works, and you have to give it a little bit of time. And since she's looking for that stretch, and she's kind of experimenting with it, then this kind of work is fine. You can make it more effective, I have to say, but you know, there's no reason why you shouldn't trot with your sessions for at least a while. But you want to minimize this kind of hollow work though, so every time you would want to aim at maximizing the good work, so to say. So here we come back to walk. And I think yes, I was gonna say I'll probably take over now. And I'm just showing what I would do, how I would try to maximize that work through the top line and nice stretch, so to say. So as you can see, I'm just carrying the lunge whip, so to say, backwards in my hand, and you could see what happened when I'm just pointing with it. She's reacting very, very strongly just by me having the whip and pointing with it. If I point, she's kind of reacting, and I put it away and she relaxes. And what I want her to learn is that when I point towards the area where your leg would go if you were riding, so the kind of the middle of her trunk, I want her to yield. You can also add in a voice command if you like. You can say yield and point. And when she yields and lowers her head like that, you see what I do? I am putting my whip away. So here I'm putting more pressure on her. And the moment she lowers and kind of there, I put everything away. As you can see, I'm starting to walk with her in a bigger circle. So every time she comes hollow and stops working, I stop walking, I put more pressure by pointing at her side, maybe telling her to yield, and the moment she reacts the way I want, which is lowering of head and stepping better under, I put away all the pressure and start walking with her in a bigger circle. So this is what I find is pretty effective with loads and loads of horses. You just have to learn the sequence. You have to learn to observe your horse, and you have to give and release all the pressure immediately when when you notice the horse reacts. You have to be very black and white in the beginning, especially. So here I was just kind of showing how I keep the whip, how I keep the lunge whip. No, there's a probably some kind of itch on on Tiva there. There was a bit of flies about that day as well, so just gets irritated every now and then by them. So as you can see, Aroha is using the lunge whip, so to say, backwards, so that she's pointing with the handle bits. It's just like an extension of your hand at the moment. And when Tiva is working fine, and you can just walk with her in a big circle. But when she comes hollow, you can just stop working, point with the whip. When she reacts, you just wait. You just keep her going, and you just wait there, and then you start walking with her and put the whip away, so to say. And it's just a matter of repeating this and being extremely consistent yourself, that you do exactly the same thing every time. Every time the head goes up, you stop working. You stop walking yourself. You point with the whip. You maybe tell her to yield. And the moment she does what you want, you put away the whip. You stop facing her and you walk with her in a bigger circle. And that tells her that this is what you want. Like here, you did it really well. That's where things went really well. That was a good timing. So this is all about timing and just learning to do the same thing over and over, and that will tell Tiva very clearly what you want, basically. So here was the end of our session, and then we had a little bit of a saddle fit and looking how the saddle was fitting. And what I'm doing here is finding the last rib and measuring it. So you can find the last rib, follow it upward, and you can also just see where the the hairs come together and then follow that line upwards. It's usually the same thing. And here I'm just explaining how if the saddle is too long, it will press on the really sensitive part beyond the last rib. So here is the saddle support area going from the end of the scapula to the last rib. So that's where your saddle should sit. And Aroha was commenting here that Tiva used to be very sensitive even to touch there on the loin, and that was most likely due to the saddle being too long, because her support area is fairly short for a horse. So here I'm feeling her back for any lumps or holes or sensitiveness, but there are none, so that's very, very good. So the current saddle is not causing very much damage there, or it's not pressing there. So here I am finding the end of the longissimus muscle and showing where the ribs start. So, and you can feel it very easily with Tiva, where the ribs are starting and the longissimus muscle is ending. So here I'm putting a line there to show where it is there. So there's the saddle panel, should be around the area where I'm drawing just now. So it is basically on the longissimus muscle. So how to measure the channel width is to find first the ligaments on the both sides of the spine. So here I'm going down. If you go down from the spine, you should feel like a tighter rope or string there. It's like a tighter string just beside the spine there. It was pretty clear with Tiva as well. So, and you find those those ligaments on both sides of the spine, and then you put your other hand, or you can measure, you can mark them as well, but you put your fingers like that, what I'm showing there, you put them on top of the ligaments on both sides, and then you would slide your other hand, your fingers, your other hand between your fingers there, like that. And this is how you measure how many fingers wide the saddle's channel should be, so that it does not sit on the horse's spine or the ligaments. And with Tiva, I think it was 3 to 4 fingers, so it's not very wide. That's pretty good, but sometimes it's hard to find saddles that are wide enough in the channel. So she's 3 to 4 fingers wide there. So that's pretty good. Right, I'm just going and explaining all kinds of things here about the saddle fit. And let's see what we do next. Yeah, I think I'm just explaining now that where the saddle support area is, where it should be. It's not so the panel should not sit on that area there, that triangle beside the wither. It should not sit on the ribs. It should not sit beyond the last rib. And then I've just checked the width of the saddle there, and it's okay for the channel. I'm explaining here, if the saddle's too wide, it might also sit on the beyond the ribs, which is not good. That's quite rare that it sits that low. But anyway, just a thing to mention. And it should sit at the longissimus, and the front of the panel is then sitting on the muscle that's going downward behind the shoulder. And that's the way the panels are shaped, the way you are. They should sit on the muscles and not on the ribs or anywhere else. And you should not have the saddle touching that area which I'm touching now, because there are some points that, if there are some reflex points there, if the saddle presses anywhere there where my fingers are now, the horse will hollow automatically. And hence, if your saddle is too narrow and it's pinching, the horse just cannot work over its back. There's no way. So if your horse is working really well from the ground without the saddle, and every time you ride you just don't get the same type of work from the saddle, then you should really pay attention how your saddle is fitting, because it might be restricting all the good work that you are doing from the ground. And if you are wondering why your horse is not getting anywhere with ridden work, it might really be your saddle. So get it checked, or make sure you can check it yourself. And here I'm finally measuring the saddle support area, which is basically from the end of the shoulder to the last rib. And this is the length of the panel that the saddle should have. When you have marked the last rib, you can also just pop on the saddle and see if it goes over the line of the last rib. So here her measures actually was somewhere between 15.5 to 16 inch. So maximum 16 inch saddle would suit her best. So here ends our video and the whole of our session video here. And well, I hope this was very informative for Aroha and everybody else, and to see how very sensitive horse can be blocked really easily by the too much use of the inside hand, or not giving the hand quick enough. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this voiceover, and until next time, bye.